So good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? It's on. Double click. So today we'll be reading more about NCERT Polity. So before this, we'll discuss about the syllabus. Did you guys read the syllabus? I've been telling you. You checked the syllabus? Did you? No? So let's do first thing. Take out a notebook. I'll give you the syllabus. Write it down because this is most important. Can you see? I'll be dictating. You can read it. You can write it from here also. GS2 paper. First, we are talking about paper 2. The first topic is Indian Constitution. So, what are the subtopics? Historical underpinning, evolution, features, amendments, comma, significant provisions. Please write it down. You'll remember all these things. Next topic is basic structure doctrine. This is very important. Next, comparison of the Indian Constitution scheme with that of other countries. Here we'll be studying about America, France, and UK, and all the developed countries. Next is function and responsibilities of union and the states. Here you will be reading about the state subject, union subject, and their responsibilities. Comma, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure. So, is India federal? Do we have a federal government? So, is it a pure federal? Okay, we'll look into it when we'll go. We'll read about it, right? Next is devolution of power and finances up to local level and challenges therein. Next topic, separation of power between various organs, comma, dispute redressal mechanism and institution. Next, structures, comma, organizations and functioning of the executive and the judiciary. This is also very important. Yesterday we read about something, speaker and the judicial review. So in this topic we will be reading more. Next, parliament and state legislature. In that we need to learn structure and functioning, conduct of business, powers and privileges and issues arising out of this. Up. Yeah. Done till here, parliament and state legislature. Next, ministries and departments of the government, comma, pressure group and formal informal association and their role in polity. So this is also very important. Next, salient features of RPA. Did we read about RPA yesterday? Representation of People's Act in the disqualification. I said there are 3 ways of disqualification. So there was one way through RPA also, 1951. So there are different sections in this, 1950 and 1951. So in that, we need to read more about it. It's a whole topic which they have given in the syllabus. In every alternative year or mostly every year, there's a question on this. Next, appointment to various constitutional posts, power, functions, and responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. So the IAS and IPS, are they conferred through constitution? Which article? All India Services, 311(12). The Rajya Sabha has the power. And constitutional bodies, can you name any? Okay. Okay, it's not a body, okay. Like CEC, UPSC himself. Like, yeah. Next, statutory, regulatory, and various quasi-judicial bodies. So, any example? Yesterday we read about something. Did we read about NIA yesterday? So it comes under statutory body. It was made through Act. So we'll read about it. What are statutory, regulatory, and various quasi-judicial? So the definition we'll read it. We'll get to know. I'll tell you about it. So for basic understandings, statutory means whatever made through the Act, the Parliament makes it. That is called statutory. Okay. Next, government policies and interventions aimed at development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Go ahead. Next topic is development processes and the development industry. The role of NGOs, self-help groups, various groups and associations, institutional and other stakeholders. This is a very big topic and we'll see more about this. SSGs and the role of Manrega and other different NGOs, how they help in the development process, right? And institutional, non-institutional, associational will look into it. There are pressure groups, like interest groups, will define it, what it is, and how it works in India. Okay? Till here done? Next is welfare schemes for vulnerable section of the population by the center and the state, and the performance of the scheme. So can you tell me any welfare scheme? Any? Okay, name any. Like, what are the welfare schemes? Yeah. You can talk about Manrega also. They're like all the Jeevan Jyoti Yojana or Ayushman Bharat. So the next point is mechanism, laws, institutions, and bodies constituted for the protection and betterment of this vulnerable section. So see, there is a mechanism and laws, institutions, bodies. So institutions, NCBC, NCST. So all those are the institutions. NHRC, and for the women section also there's NCW, I think. Next, issues relating to development and management of social sectors, services relating to health, education, human resources. So did we read something yesterday about health? AMR, right? And I was talking about health, national health policy also. So we'll look into it when the health chapter comes. Okay. So this is the topic I said, right? Paper 2. Yesterday I marked you. So this comes under paper 2, the health, education, human resources. Next, issues relating to poverty and hunger. In this also every alternative year will find a question. And there are many reports. Next, important aspects of governance, transparency and accountability. E-governance, application model, successes, limitation and potential. It's a big topic. It's all related to governance and e-governance. So can you give me any example of e-governance? Like how electronically government has been able to deliver their services? Any example? PDF? Okay, I have they integrated through electronic. You're talking about the Aadhaar based system and the Jam Trinity. Okay, and what about Corona time? We used to use an app. What was it? Right? So that's the e-governance thing. Citizen charters, transparency and accountability, and the institutional and other measures. So this citizen charter is also important. We'll find this topic again in GS4. When we deal with ethics, there's a GS4 paper. So who are the new ones? Okay, so you know how many papers are there? For the mains, how many papers you have to write? Huh? Total? 9. Okay. So there's essay, GS1 to 4, and optional, and 2 are your language paper. So GS4 I'm talking about ethics. GS1, 2, 3, 4. One is the paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, paper 4. Don't consider essay in that. Essay is separate, okay? So GS4 is ethics. Ethics has this topic. Again, you'll read it there again. So this like is an overlapping subject. So if you read here, it becomes more easier for you to read there. Okay. Again, the role of civil services in the democracy. This topic also repeats in ethics, and this is what we are doing if you want to get into the administration. Okay. Next big topic is international relation. So, did we read about something yesterday? The Suez Canal, Strait of Hormuz, why it is important? So, all those things comes under this IR relation, international relation. Why it is important for India? So, everything what we are reading, it's through the perspective of India. We just don't read everything like whatever is happening in outside world. But how does it affect India? Basically, we will be dealing with that because we have ties, economic ties, political ties with all the countries. So it's an interdependent world right now. It's a globalized world. So how does it affect and how India is coping up with all those things? We'll understand. Okay. So what are the topics in this? India and its neighborhood. So these are the immediate neighborhood we're talking about, international relation. So which are the immediate neighborhood? Okay. Okay. All this, Sri Lanka. Okay. Next, bilateral, regional, and global grouping, an arrangement involving India or affecting the Indian interest. Can you tell me any regional grouping? G20, ASEAN, and global? WTO. We can take it UN also. Hmm? Yeah, all those things, IMF and all. Yeah. Next, effects of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest, Indian diaspora. So this is important again because after Modi has come, the Honorable Prime Minister, he has like pitched in a lot of effort to grow India outward. So before the present government, it was not that, the diaspora was not that important. It was there always because the remittance we get is the highest. But now because of because of the present government, there is something called diaspora diplomacy. So it is basically an outreach program. So Honorable Prime Minister, what he does is he goes to every country and visits, and we make a tie, be it political, economical, or even in science and tech. So the whole world is now moving towards science and tech because if you read about semiconductors, it is very important for the present scenario. We'll look into it whenever the news comes, right? Next is effect of policies. Okay, this was done. Next, important international institutions, agencies, their structure and mandates. Here we'll be reading about IMF, WTO, World Bank, all the Bretton Woods characters or whatever it was. Three are there, right? The WTO is also supposed to be made through Bretton Woods, but later it evolved through other process. So only two are there, IMF and World Bank. Okay. Their structures and their mandates. So this is your syllabus. This itself, how many pages? You need to remember this first. Why? When you write your answers, you will remember that which topic the question has been asked from, and you can integrate better. You have to write different sections also, like you can even add your GS1 portion in GS2. That is called integration. This is how you will get more marks. Okay. So this is why I gave you this before. I know you will not go back. You don't get time, I understand, but this was more important. So let's go back again. Let's do the revision. Check back. Indian Constitution, historical underpinning, evolution, features. Next, amendment, significant provisions, basic structure doctrine, comparison of the Indian constitutional schemes with that of other countries. Next, functions and responsibilities of the union and the state, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure, devolution of power and finances up to local level and challenges therein. Here we'll be reading all about PRI, 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. Separation of power between various organs, dispute redressal mechanism and institutions. Next, structures, organizations and functioning of the executive and the judiciary. Next, Parliament and the state legislature, structures, functioning, conduct of business, power and privileges and issues arising out of this. Ministries and department of the government, pressure groups and formal informal associations and their role in the polity. Salient features of Representation of People's Act. Appointment to various constitutional posts, powers, functions and responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. Statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial bodies. Government policies and interventions aimed at development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Development processes and development industries. The role of NGO, self-help group, various groups and association, institutional and other stakeholders. Welfare schemes for vulnerable sections of the population by the center and the state, and the performance of these schemes, mechanisms, laws, institutions, and bodies constituted for the protection and betterment of this vulnerable section. Issues related to the development and management of social sectors, services related to health, education, human resources. Next, issues related to poverty and hunger. Important aspects of governance, transparency and accountability, e-governance, applications, models, successes, limitations and potential citizenship charters, transparency and accountability, and institutional and other measures. Next, role of civil services in a democracy. Next, the big topic is international relation. Excuse me. India and its neighborhood, international relation, bilateral, regional and global grouping, an agreement involving India and or affecting the Indian interests. Next, effects of policies and polities of developed and developing countries, of the India's interest, Indian diaspora, important international institutions, agencies, their structures and mandates. So, can you see the syllabus itself is so big? And now to prepare on each topic, we need at least 2 pages. Everyone should have at least two pages on each topic, so that once the day comes, it's easy for you to revise and to write. It should not be blank. And it's not easy to make 2 pages. Like I'm just saying, it's a vast subject. It will take time. Within 3-4 months, we can develop whatever skills we need for this paper 2. Okay. So today we'll be dealing with the NCERTs, the basic one first. Sure. So before we'll start, can you tell me what is the importance of Constitution? Why Constitution is required, or what do you know about Constitution? Anyone? Okay. For whom? Is it only for the citizen? For government too? And for the society also? So as a whole, for at individual level, at societal level, and for the government too, because it avoids it limits the power of government basically. If we have a constitution, the government cannot go beyond that. And there are 2 types of rights, negative and positive. It's called positive liberty and negative liberty. What is negative liberty with respect to a human being? What is liberty? Liberty is like you can walk out of this room anytime, but you cannot because you're sitting here, right? You need to learn. But if you had the true liberty, you could have walked out. You can come in anytime. That is liberty. You can read anything. That is liberty. So what is negative liberty means? You want to do anything with your life. Government will not interfere. You want to start a business, you can do it. You want to hit someone, you can do it. That is negative liberty. What is positive liberty? It is with respect to the government. Like there is a laws on reservation. Positively, it is adding. Like reservation policies are there. Article 16. We'll be reading about other articles, like how the Indian Constitution, different articles are there for the equality. So there are 2 aspects we are reading about now. talking about right now. What? Negative and positive liberty and rights, positive and negative rights. So these are legal rights with what we're talking about. But there are something called natural rights versus legal rights. So what is the difference between these two? What do you understand by natural rights? Like by the name it says natural rights. So what does it mean? Rights which are given by the nature himself. What are the rights what nature has given you? Right to live. Nobody can kill you. Like nobody should kill you. Right? Right to live and to have anything. That is natural rights, where the government is not involved. This was before the time when the constitution was written or before any kind of government had come. But there were some problems with this natural rights. There was no check and balance. If you have some power, if you are physically fit, you can go kill anyone because you have your own natural rights. So to curb that, to control that, the legal rights came into picture. And how did this legal right came? Through democracies or through constitutions, through written form, through some documents which prescribed your power. Like this you can do it, this you cannot do it. If you kill someone, it's a murder, and it's a naturally acclaimed right that nobody can kill anyone. You'll be behind the bars. So this was codified. Codified means people agreed on terms. If you do something, if you do go theft issue, you'll be covered under some charges. Those are codified ones. Those laws comes under legal rights. But natural rights didn't have anything which was codified. It was basically a era of barbarian. Like whoever is powerful, he's the might. Okay, like might is right. There's a saying. Whoever is powerful, he's the one person who will be controlling everything. So you understood there are two different types of rights, natural and legal rights. So we will be talking about legal rights, what Constitution has given us. Okay? You have this book? No? Let's start with the first one. What is this? It's a preamble, right? This is the preface of the Constitution. If you open a Constitution book, this will be the first one. What does it say? You understood this legal and natural rights, right? Whatever it is codified, it comes under legal right. It itself says legal, right? Natural, like whichever is not codified. So, can you read? Yeah.
The Constitution of India, we the peoples of India, having the sovereignty of the Constitution, Indians into
Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. So there's a mnemonics for that. Triple SDR. You can remember that way. SSSDR. So it says, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, all the different types of justice, social, economic, and political. So there are three types of justice. We'll be reading about it. Liberty of thoughts, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Okay. Next, equality of status. Equality of status and opportunities, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. You need to remember it word by word. This will be asked in prelims. This can be asked during interview time. They might just ask you what is the preamble. In prelims, they have asked this, like which all part are mentioned in the preamble, DPSP, or the fundamental rights. It's not a big one. You can, it will take time, I understand, but slowly you have to remember everything, whatever the mentioned words are there, like SSSDR, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. and unity and integrity of nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Right? So there are some amendments. We'll read about it. Which were the amendments, right? Again, just see it again if you want to. This is should by hearted anytime. You can write all the words which are like a highlighted one, like SSSDR, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, unity, integrity also. And what was the date? This can be asked, like in prelims they do ask all these things, or in even in the state exams, anywhere they can ask. Because I will ask you again. Written, done? If you have any doubt, you can ask me, okay? If you are not able to understand a single word, please ask me. Don't feel hesitant that there's no point if you keep it with yourself. Ask me. This is why I'm here. Okay? It was enacted on this date. It was taken as that date for the Republic Day because the independence, Purna Swaraj, was decided on 26 January 1930. So this is why they chose 26 January 1950. But Constitution was already, like it was already set, it was done by this date. Some articles we'll see was already enacted on 26th November itself. We'll see when we read the Lakshmikant. But why did we choose 26 January? Because it was related to Purna Swaraj, which had happened during the national independent movement. We were supposed to take it as like that day was the day we chose for going for complete independent movement. 26 January 1930. Okay, next. So in this book, we'll be reading about Constitution, why and how, rights in the Indian Constitution. What all rights do we have? As an individual, as a society, for the government, what all rights everyone has. Election and representation, Election Commission power and RPA Act. Executive, MP, MLA and their power. Legislature, Parliament or the state Vidhan Sabha, where they make laws. This is legislature. Judiciary, what is judiciary? Courts, right? Federalism. You know, there are two kinds of powers. There is a union government and a state government also. In Karnataka, we have a government. Center also has a government. This is called federalism. Basic understanding. This is federalism, okay? Where we have two powers. One at state, one at center. But we have a different kind of setup where the union has lot more power compared to state. That we will read about it, how it is different from other countries like USA. USA is a true federal country. Their state has equal power to their union. But in India, it is not like that. India, the union government is more powerful than the state because it can redraw the boundaries of any state. Like how it happened in Jammu Kashmir. It became a union territory. We'll read about it when we read about Article 2 and 3 of the Indian Constitution. Okay? Just basic understanding. You are understanding, right? What is federalism? What is federalism? Two powers at center and what state. Okay? We even say we have three governance system. What is the third one? Which one? What? Social what? Not socialist government. What is the third tier government we have in India? Yeah, local government. So the first is union, second is center, state, third is local government, PRI and ULBs. Panchayat Raj. We go to state. We are in some district. If you go, you have that panchayat system. You have seen. And in cities, we have mayor and all. If you go, so those are ULBs. Okay, urban local bodies. Basically in cities we have those things. Municipalities, you heard about it, right? So those are the third level of government system, governance we say. Okay. Next, local government. See, again in federalism, after that chapter is only local government. Ninth, constitution as a living document. This talks about how is it our constitution rigid? Means can we change our constitution? And is it flexible or is it rigid? Like, can we change it very easily or can we change it like it is very difficult like USA? So we need to understand that it's a living document. It changes according to the time. We have made certain changes which was required in this time. So it allows you for flexibility, but at a cost. It's not that easy. We'll read about the special majorities. Through what majority we can change the constitution. It's called amendment, constitutional amendments. How we can do it. There's a chapter on that. We'll read it. Okay. Next, the philosophy of the constitution. So there are 10 chapters in this. This book is basically a background for you to understand why we want to read about the polity and why it is important for our day-to-day life. Since we all want to work for the government, this book becomes very more important, like very much important. And even for the local citizens, they should know their own rights. It's not like just we should know it. Everyone should be aware about their own rights. So here we'll be dealing about certain things like can they arrest you? And if they arrest you, what power do you have with yourself? If someone arrests you, what can you do? If police comes and catches you, simply like, let's go to police station. What power do you have? You can ask him. You can question him, why did you arrest me? Here we don't do that. First thing is they'll slap you. Like, they'll catch you and they'll take you. So by the time you'll be scared. Like, what to do? So what is the next thing they can do? The police, they can keep us in the police station. But how long? There's a rule. He should be produced to a judicial magistrate within 24 hours. And what power do you have? You have the right to be silent. If they ask you what you have done, if you don't want to say anything, it's your rights. Right now there's a changes in the, I think IPC, they have changed the name and all. Right to be handcuffed. They can't handcuff you if you're willing to come along with them. You have the right to have a lawyer to represent you in the court if you have not done anything. So these are your rights as a common citizen of India. But it gets over abused because of we don't know, lack of knowledge. And if we try to say something, straight away one slap comes. So that dilutes everything. Okay. Next is fundamental duties. This is again very important with respect to, they have asked directly in prelims. Even in mains, they have asked what are the fundamental duties of a citizen in India. Who can you read it? Can you see it?
It should be the duty of every citizen.
No, top. Read from the top.
Constitution of India,
Part
Part 4.
4A.
Article 51.
This is important for prelims. They will ask which part is like does fundamental duty belong to? Part 4A. And which is the article?
51.
You need to remember that. Okay. This is important for PD prelims. Next.
Fundamental duties. It should be the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the
Yeah. So here it says to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institution, national flag and national anthem. So does it include national song here? No. It just says national flag and national anthem. Okay, but it's your duty. It's not like you should not respect national song. You have to respect everything. But what it's mentioned here, you need to remember that. Next.
To cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom.
Right. Next.
To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and equality.
This has been asked in previous year question in prelims. Where do you see this word? Like they have given the statement and they have asked, does it belong to preamble? Does it belong to fundamental duty, DPSP, or fundamental rights? So now you have to remember. This is why it's like some 10 or 12 list. You have to by heart it. It will take time, but slowly and slowly we have to by heart all these things. So what is the third one again?
To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India.
Okay. Fourth one?
To defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so.
Fifth one?
To protect harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women.
So this is important. The last line, the whole thing is important. But the last line you can mention it when you are writing about women empowerment. Like it's our fundamental duty to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Okay? You can write it if you want to, only the keywords. You can go back in your home, you can read about it, but only the keywords. You don't have to write everything. Next.
To value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. To protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures.
This will be reading in DPSP again. Remember this, okay? Does fundamental duty talk about environment protection and all? It does. Even lakes, rivers, wildlife, and compassion for living creatures. So fundamental duty talk about all these things. Next.
To develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform.
So it talks about scientific temper. You can write about if there's a question about AI or something. In evolution, in scientific or be it in any field, our fundamental duty does talk about this. It is mentioned in non-fundamental duty. Okay. Next.
To safeguard public property and observe violence.
So can we break any public property? It's a fundamental duty to protect it. But there are cases that you might see that there was a case regarding Vande Bharat, where people have, it's a new train which the government of India has started. So they have broken all the windows. I think somewhere in UP or Bihar, somewhere it happened. So it should not be done. Public property is our property, basically. Road, it is built for us. Next.
To strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly raises higher levels of endeavor and achievement.
Okay. Next.
Who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or as the case may be, born between the age of 6 and 14 years.
So it talks about 6 to 14-year age. Okay. These differences we'll find it. We'll try to get this differences. Why I'm marking this? Okay. If education is talked about, it is covered under all the section. It's not just fundamental duty. You'll find it in fundamental rights also. Even in DPSP, yeah, there's a talk about that. But here, it's directly mentioned that what is the age group? 6 to 14 years. Okay, remember this. And read the note.
The Article 51A containing fundamental duties was inserted by the Constitution, 42nd Amendment Act 1976,
So,
with the effect from 3rd January 1976.
right. So what does it try to say? Was it like the fundamental duty was not there when the Constitution was enacted? And when was it enacted, the Constitution? We read a preamble. What was written? 26th November. So it was not included that time. So when was it included? 1976, and through an amendment act. Which amendment act? This everything you have to remember. 42nd Amendment Act brought in the Article 51A, which talks about fundamental duty. Okay, 3 things. It was not there when the actual Constitution was established. Next.
Point K was inserted to the Constitution, 86th Amendment Act 2002, with effect from 1st April 2010.
86th Amendment Act basically talks about right to education. So what was point K? Compulsory education. Right to education. We'll find again, I'm telling you, right, it will come in fundamental rights also. In DPSP also, in fundamental duties also. Right to education. So some basic information you have got, that what are your duties. It's not just yours, it's everyone's. Who is the citizen of India, they have some duties to follow. These are our duties, fundamental duties. So it is written non-justiciable. We'll talk about it. Like what are justiciable and non-justiciable? What does it mean in the upcoming chapters? But remember, I have written non-justiciable. Non-justiciable, basically it means that you cannot approach Supreme Court or High Court directly. It's a normal legal right. If it has been violated, there will be some cases against you, but you cannot go directly to the Supreme Court or High Court. Right? That means we'll read about it. What does it mean? Okay? So these are the fundamental duties. Which article is it? Which part? When was it inserted? Through which Amendment Act? Good. These are the basic things, okay? Next, let's move on to the first chapter. This book is about the working of the Indian Constitution. In this chapter, in the chapter that follows, you will read information about various aspects of the working of our Constitution, how our Constitution works. You will learn about various institutions of the government in our country and their relationship with each other. But before you begin to read about election, government and president and prime ministers, it is necessary to understand the entire structure of the government and various principles that binds the institution of the government have their origin in the Constitution of India. So whatever we see around us, any structure, any machinery, everything is mentioned in the Constitution or through an act which is made by the Parliament himself. And how the Parliament has come? Through the Constitution. So which has the power, ultimate power? Constitution. Everyone derives their power through the Constitution. And from where does the Constitution derives its power? What was the preamble starting line? We the people of India. So it's us through what the Constitution derives power. So it is working for us. So you understood the chain? Trying to understand like little bit? Okay. After studying this chapter, you will learn what a constitution means, what a constitution does to a society, how constitution governs the allocation of power in society, and what was the way in which the Constitution of India was made. So these are the 4 things we'll be reading about in this chapter. First, okay, this is, we'll be reading the whole book slowly, okay, because we need an interactive session. It's a book, it's an NCERT. If you have this base, like if you have clearly understood this book, you can read the other higher level books. Okay? You read. Why do we need a constitution? You can see, no? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Constitution allows coordination and procedure. Imagine yourself to be member of the regularly largely group. For the remaining the group has important characteristics. The members of the group are diverse in various ways. They have different religious
allegiances. Some are Hindus, some are Muslims.
Some are Christian, and some perhaps
no religion at all.
profess no religion at all. There are also very many different respects. They pursue different professions, have different activities, have different hobbies, different tastes in everything. From swimming to books, some are rich, some are poor, some are good, some are young. Imagine further that members of the group are likely to have dispute over various aspects of life. How much poverty should one be allowed to work? Should it be compulsory that every change is sent to school, or should the parents be allowed to decide how much should this group spend on the safety and security, or should it be more part instead? Should the group be allowed to discriminate against some of its members? Every question elicits various of answers from different people. But for all the diversity, this group has to live together.
Yeah, stop here. So see, there are so many questions as a citizen we have, as a human being we have. We have to deal with ourselves and with others also. Somebody can be rich, somebody can be poor. There are different religions, but we still stick together. What is making us to stick together? How do we believe that this is a safe place and we all belong to this place? There should be some sense of belongingness, right? Like if you consider what is happening in Gaza or in any other country where there's turmoil, they don't have that sense of belongingness. There's a refugee system. Like if you know about Rohingyas in Myanmar, those people are being executed. So they are traveling to other countries because they don't have that sense of belongingness to that country. But we as an Indian, do we have that? We have it. How do we have that? How do we get that sense of belongingness? Next, we'll This is the question we've been asking in this chapter right now, like the topic. But all their diversity, this group has to live together. They are dependent upon each other in various ways. They require the cooperation of each other. What will enable the group to live together peacefully? What is it which is enabling it? One may say that perhaps members of this group can live together if they can agree on some basic rules. Right? We'll work together, we'll eat together, or something, some other work, like this is my area, this is your area, we'll not trespass. Some basic rules we are agreeing on. Why will the group need certain basic rules? Think of what would happen in the absence of some basic rule. I have talked about natural rights when we started. So he's talking about that. If we don't have a rule, natural rights never had a rule in that time. You are powerful, you are the mightiest one. So if we what if we don't have any basic rules? Every individual would be insecure simply because they would not know what members of that group could do to each other. It leads to insecurity. You might get killed. Or if you are making some money, he'll come and just loot you. That's my money. Okay? Who would claim rights over what? Any group will need some basic rules that are publicly promulgated and known to all members of that group to achieve a minimal degree of coordination. But these rules must not only be known, they must also be enforceable. This is important. We know certain rules are there, but it should be enforceable. The government should enforce it. If citizens have no assurance that others will follow these rules, they will themselves have no reason to follow these rules. If you see someone breaking the traffic signal in front of you, what do? You do the same. Why? Because if he is doing it, let me do it. We have the tendency, right? So he's talking about that. Saying that the rules are legally enforceable gives an assurance to everybody that others will follow this. For if they do not do so, they will be punished, either monetarily or they can go to jail. They will go to jail, okay? So that means if there are rules, it should be known, and most important is it should be enforceable. And who enforces these rules? Government, and through their machineries like on ground police, right? The first function of the Constitution is to provide a set of basic rules that allows for minimum coordination among members of society. You can write this. This is the first function. What is the first function of Constitution? To provide set of basic rules that allows for minimal coordination among members of society. Wrote it? Next, let's move on. Yeah, you read it. Specification of decision making. You cannot see? You stand up. You sit here. Can you see from here? Okay.
Specification of decision-making powers. Constitution is a body of fundamental principles according to which a state of constituted or
Governed.
But why should this fundamental be and what makes them fundamental?
Okay, I'll read it. You sit. So it is about the specification of decision-making power. A constitution is a body of fundamental principles according to which a state is constituted or governed. Okay? But what should these fundamental rules be? What are these rules? What makes them fundamental and why are they fundamental? Well, the first question you will have to decide is who gets to decide what the laws governing the society should be? Who makes the laws, first of all? In India, who is the one who makes the laws? Parliament. And in state? Vidhan Sabha, right? But from where do they get their power to make laws? Who is allowing them to make power? Constitution itself, because it gives them power to elect, re-elect. They can become a MP, MLA only through Constitution and the different acts, which is again made by the Parliament, and Parliament is made by the Constitution. Okay. So where were we? And what makes them fundamental? Well, the first question you will have to decide is who gets to decide what the laws governing the society should be. You may want rule X, but others may want rule Y. How do we decide whose rules or preferences should govern us? You may think the rules you want everyone to live by are the best, but other thinks that their rules are the best. How do we resolve this dispute? So even before you decide what rules should be govern this group, you have to decide who gets to decide. So who will decide it? It's a majoritarian government. Like whenever there is a bill passed, it is passed by the government who's in the power right now. But there will be some people who will never like it. So this is why we have a system of majority, simple majority, special majority. I've told you, like, to change the constitution, to amend the constitution, it should be done through special majority. Just remember, there are three types of majorities: simple majority, special majority, and absolute majority. We'll read about it. Just remember special majority. If you have to change the constitution, if you have to amend anything, you have to do it through special majority. Okay? The constitution has to provide an answer to this question. It specifies the basic allocation of power in a society. It decides who gets to decide what the law will be. In principle, this question, who gets to decide, can be answered in many ways. In a monarchical constitution, a monarch decides. So which are the monarchical societies? Like, can you think about it? A monarch means a king or queen who rules the country. So do you know about UK, England and all, or the Australia, Canada? Still they are under the queen's rule. So there only one person will decide. This is called monarchical constitution. Okay. In some constitution, like the old Soviet Union, one single party was given the power to decide. It's a communist party. So we still have the communism going on. China is there, North Korea, again the Russia, and I think Venezuela is also under the constitution. This thing, communist country. So first was monarch, second was party system, single party system. But in democratic constitution, broadly speaking, the people gets to decide. So this is what I said, who is the one through which the constitution gets the power from? It's us, people, we the people of India. But this matter is not so simple, because even if you answer that the people should decide, it will not answer the question, how should the people decide? In India, how do we decide like the law should be made? So what is the process for that in India? What is the basic thing we do? Law, who makes the law? Who sits there? MPs. Who selects them? Through voting? So this is called indirect representative. Like, it's a representative democracy in an indirect way. Indirect democracy it is called, or representative democracy. Indirect way means we are choosing someone and they are making laws for us. But there are some countries like Switzerland where the people, they themselves vote for the laws also. If they want to eat 5 times a day, or 6 times a day, they just want to eat, keep on eating. So they will say, we are having a referendum. It's called referendum. That means you people tell me, do you want to eat 7 times a day? So if majority says yes, they'll be given 7 times a day food. People will decide. But in India, if that thing has to happen 7 times a day, who will decide? MPs will decide sitting in the parliament. They will vote for it. If those 570s or odd 550s people, they think that everyone should eat 7 times, it will be given 7 times. So there can be some problems, right? Because they are representing a constitution. We all will choose one MP or MLA. He'll go there, he'll sit there, he'll vote. There's a problem there. But both has their own problems and limitations. Direct democracy cannot be done in India because not everyone can go vote, like for everything. Who do you think? How many of us have actually voted for the election? Who has voted for election till now? Oh, it's a great classroom that is. More than half of them have voted. So majority don't vote actually in India, right? Why? Because it's a cumbersome process. You go stand there in the line, and why? So people they're asking for online thing now, like make it robust so that we can sit at home and vote for someone, but it can't be done in India. So next, but in democratic constitution, broadly speaking, the people gets to decide. But this matter is not so simple, because even if you answer that the people should decide, it will not answer the question. How should the people decide? For something to be law, everyone should agree to it, right? Should the people directly vote on each matter as the ancient Greeks did? Or should the people express their preferences by electing representatives? So I told you about two things. Can we go directly vote for everything? Or we can choose a person who can vote for us. We'll just sit in our home, do our work. He'll be doing that work. Okay. So it is called representative democracy. If the people act through their representatives, how should these representatives be elected? How do you elect those guys if we need a representative? How many should be there? And total, how many should be there? So we have a policy called Delimitation Commission. We'll read about it. What they do is, Delimitation Commission, what they do is they'll make a constituency, like some lakhs of people will choose one MLA. So we have a constituency everywhere, right? You might have heard. Here also, I think Bangalore is divided among like urban, north, south, east, west. So these are constituencies. It is done by delimitation committee. It is done every 10 years or whenever the parliament decides. So he's talking how many should be there. So this is why I said delimitation committee will decide this. Like how many should be there actually. In the Indian constitution, for example, it is specified that in most instances, parliament gets to decide laws and policies. It says most instances, parliament is the one who gets to decide laws and policies, and that parliament itself be organized in a particular manner. Before identifying what the laws in any given society is, you have to identify who has the authority to enact it. Who is the one who will enact it? So in India, who is it? President. Whatever laws are made, he has to basically give the assent. Assent means to give permission. President will give permission for all the laws which he has passed, but he has certain power also with him. But without his assent or the permission, the law will not be made as act. It will not have any legal backing if the president or the governor has not given his sign. So in India, he like quote unquote, he's been called rubber stamp, but it's not like that, right? Because he doesn't have power, they say in India, but he has some powers which actually has some discretion. Like even Sir Abdul Kalam, he had some pocket vetoes. He did. We'll discuss about it when we'll read about this thing, president. If parliament has the authority to enact law, there must be a law that bestows this authority on the parliament in the first place, right? If parliament can make law, who gives the power to the parliament himself? This is the function of the constitution. It is an authority that constitutes government in the first place. So parliament is getting the power from the constitution himself. Okay, read the next one.
The second function of the constitution is to specify who has the power to make decisions in a society. It decides how the government will be constituted, limitations of the powers of government. But this is clearly not enough. Suppose you decided what had the authority to make decisions, but then this authority passed laws that you thought were patently unfair. It prohibited you from practicing your religion, for instance, or it enjoined that clothes of a certain color were prohibited, or that you were not free to sing certain songs, or that people who belong to a particular group, caste, or religion would always have to serve others and would not be allowed to retain any property, or that government could arbitrarily arrest someone, or that only people of certain skin color would be allowed to draw water from wells. You would obviously think these laws were unjust and unfair. And even though they were passed by the government, they had come into existence based on certain procedures. There would be something obviously unjust about the government enacting these laws.
Yeah, stop here. So this was like, I told you, like if someone arrests you arbitrarily, they can't do it. So what constitution gives that power, that they cannot arrest you like that. So the basic, they have asked this limitation on the power of government. It's called tyranny of the executive. It was asked this year also in the prelims. What is the function, basic function of the constitution? It limits the power of government. Otherwise, if it is not mentioned, government will be absolutely like full on power. It will like the powerful, most powerful person on earth. So how does they get limited? Their power gets limited. It is through the constitution. Like the recent example, they have amended this IPC and CRPC, right? So there's a new case going on related to hit and run for the truck drivers. So it was mentioned that for 10 years they can be jailed. So what the truck drivers did was they went on strike. So this is the power of people. Then the government thought this is excessive. This is too much. So they rolled back. Otherwise, they would have said it's our wish. We are the one in the power. We can make laws. But people didn't like it, so they went for the strike. They striked for like 1 day or 2 day, and that law was taken back. So there's nothing called now 10 years of jail for hit and run cases. And similarly, in some 3 years, 4 years back, there was a farm laws protest. There were some laws, 3 laws which government has brought in. That after I think long time of protest, it was repealed back because government was under pressure from the people himself. You cannot do this. So it was repealed. So that means even government can roll back their policies if it is not accepted by the majority of people. Okay. So this is important. Limitation on the power of government. It has been asked, and it will be asked in the future every time. So this is the basic work of a constitution. It limits the power of the government. Government cannot be excessively powerful. Yeah, third function. So,
and the third function of a constitution is the set of some limit on what a government can constitute.
Okay, you read.
So the third function of the constitution is to set some limits on what a government can impose on its citizens. These limits are fundamental in the sense that government may never trespass them. Constitutions limit the power of government in many ways. The most common way of limiting power of government is to specify certain fundamental rights that all of us possess as citizens, and which no government can ever be allowed to violate.
Yeah, stop it. So it says like the most common one is fundamental rights. We have some certain fundamental rights. There's one fundamental right called right to untouchability. Like nobody can actually practice that in India right now. So certain laws have been also made, acts have been made, but it is mentioned in the Constitution, Article 17. Untouchability is not allowed. And then there's something called for child labor, protection of children's. It's a fundamental right. Nobody can actually give occupation to children who are below 14 years in hazardous places. So these are the fundamental rights. You cannot push someone like that. Or bonded labor. Nobody can be made to beg on the street. Everybody has a right to livelihood. Everybody should get that rights. So these are the fundamental rights which the government will never trespass. Okay? Next.
The exact content and interpretation of these rights varies from constitution to constitution, but most constitutions will protect a basic cluster of rights. Citizens will be protected from being arrested arbitrarily and for no reason. This is one basic limitation upon the power of government. Citizens will normally have the right to some basic liberties, to freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, freedom of association, freedom to conduct a trade or business, etc. In practice, these rights can be limited during times of national emergency, and the Constitution specifies the circumstances under which these rights may be withdrawn.
So here, Constitution has given us some fundamental rights. Okay, like right to sleep is also a fundamental right. Nobody should disturb you if you're sleeping. Right to eat is also a fundamental right. You are supposed to get a healthy food. So, but there are some limitations too. You cannot say like right to profess any profession If you want to if you want to get into any profession, you can do it. It's not like that. You cannot get into something which is harmful for the national integrity or the unity of nation. Like, think about somebody is making a bomb or ammunitions. You can't go that, yeah, I want to do that profession. It will be harmful for the country, even for the people. So government has some restrictions which they can place it. They can do it if it is about national unity, integrity, or public health, even during emergencies, national emergencies. What is national emergencies? We'll read about it. India had a national emergency during Indira Gandhi time, right? So we'll read about it. What are the powers the central government will have? It will become all unitary. There's no state government at all. It is there, but it will functions on the whims and fancies of the central government. Central government will become all powerful. So that makes the whole federalism a one single unitary system. So it is talking about this national emergency, that during national emergency, fundamental rights can be curtailed. Curtailed means it can be taken off. You don't have any fundamental rights. Or even they have some other restrictions which are mentioned in the constitution itself, which are, I told you, national unity, integrity of the country, sovereignty, or public health itself. If you want to conduct a protest, it should be peaceful. If you think this institution is not giving you enough room to study, you can protest, but peacefully. You cannot throw stones and all. No, I don't like this institution anymore. So these are your limitations. Government has given you right to protest, but it should be peacefully done. And you have to inform the government also. You have to inform the police station and the DM that you will be continuing a protest here for so many days. They will give you the permission, then you can do it. Otherwise, it will be called illegal. Okay? Next.
Aspirations and goals of a society. Most of the older constitutions limited themselves largely to allocating decision-making power and setting some limits to government power. But many 20th century constitutions, of which the Indian constitution is the finest example, also provide an enabling framework for the government to do certain positive things.
Yeah, stop here. To express the aspiration and the goal of society. So, old constitution had only two functions: decision making power, who will decide, and limitation on the power, government power. So two things it is there: decision making power and limitation. So I have told you about the negative liberty, right? And there's something called positive liberty also. I said, what are the positive liberty? Making equal reservations. So this is about enabling framework, enabling acts. Government are actually helping you to grow now. Like if they want to give you some money, Stand Up India, there are schemes which gives you collateral free money, but it is not for everyone. It is for the downtrodden, for the depressed classes, so that they can become equal. Or the reservation in education, in the jobs, it is only given so that the past, whatever has atrocities they have faced, and because of the discrimination, they have been marginalized. They're not in the mainstream society. To get them back in the mainstream society, it is called affirmative actions, what government takes. These are the positive rights. So there are two functions of the government: decision making power and the limitation itself. But the third function is positive rights, affirmative action, what they take for the people. Okay, welfare society. India is a welfare society. What does it mean? We are not here just to run the government or run the state. Welfareistic approach is also there. If you have, everyone knows about Ayushman Bharat. Ayushman Bharat, do you know? Ayushman Bharat scheme, it is provided, it's a healthcare scheme. So every family will get 5 lakh of insurance. But there are some criteria. He should be poor, or there's some criteria of the money also. It should be APL or BPL, and it is only for tertiary and secondary healthcare systems. But the whole family will be covered 5 lakh rupees. And who will give this 5 lakh rupees? The government will give. So that means it's a welfare approach. You don't have to pay from your pocket. Government is giving it. This is how a government is taking affirmative action to protect its own citizen. There are free education provided, right? Right to education. They have like free Prawn Shiksha Kendras, and what we see like Navodaya Vidyalayas and all. It provides free education. Minimum they'll charge, or even free also. Why the government has to do that? You need to think about that, why the government is doing this, so that everybody comes in the same platform. Whoever are left behind, let them also take them together. These are called affirmative actions what government do. Okay, this was the third thing. Next, read.
The Indian constitution was particularly innovative in this respect. Societies with deep entrenched inequalities of various kinds will not only have to set limits on the power of government, they will also have to enable and empower the government to take positive measures to overcome forms of inequality or deprivation.
Understood? Negative and positive measures, what they take. So what are the things in India we have recently enabled, we have come up with a reservation called EWS, economically weaker section, right? Everyone knows about this. 10%. Economically weaker section means who are economically poor. So before that we had other kind of reservation like SC/ST reservation, OBC reservations, right? This was before this. Now they have included one more. It's called EWS, economically weaker section. And through which Amendment Act it was brought in? What was the Amendment Act? 103 Amendment. Okay. And even the women reservation, right now the bill which was passed in the parliament, right? 33% of women reservation will be there in the parliament. So this was passed recently now. This is also a positive measures which the government has taken so that the women have equal representation, not equal, at least 33%. Because we have some issues after Indira, like Srimati Indira Gandhi, I don't think so anybody was there as a woman prime minister. And even right now, I think 14 or 15% is the strength of women in the Indian parliament. But other countries, if you go, they have around 50, 55 also percent women participation in parliament. There, in India, it's very low. So we have come up with this law now. So this will give 33% of reservation surely. It can exceed that limit, but 33 for sure. Okay. Next.
For example, India aspires to be a society that is free of caste discrimination. If this is our society's aspiration, the government will have to be enabled or empowered to take all the necessary steps to achieve this goal. In a country like South Africa, which had a deep history of racial discrimination, its new constitution had to enable the government to end racial discrimination.
What was it called in South Africa? The racial discrimination, what was the name? Apartheid? Okay, next.
More positively, a constitution may enshrine the aspirations of a society. The farmers of the Indian constitution, for example, the framers of the Indian constitution, for example, thought that each individual in society should have all that is necessary for them to lead a life of minimal dignity and social self-respect. Minimum material well-being education, etc.
Okay. So, see, the framers of the Indian Constitution, for example, thought that each individual in society should have all that is necessary for them to lead a life of minimal dignity and social self-respect, minimal material well-being and education, etc. This is already decided because this is what a citizen should have. He should not live a life like an animal or so downtrodden that like before how it was used to be. So they wanted everyone to be on equal footing. The Indian Constitution enables the government to take positive welfare measures, some of which are legally enforceable. As we go on study the Indian Constitution, we shall find that such enabling provision have the support of the preamble to our Constitution. So do we have that support? Liberty, equality talks about, right? Justice, okay? Provisions and have the support of the preamble to our Constitution. And these provisions are found in the section of fundamental rights too. The DPSPs, the Directive Principles of State of Policy, also enjoin government to fulfill certain aspiration of the people. So this, we have read about fundamental duties, right? Which article was it? Okay, quick revision. Part? Which Amendment Act? 42nd Amendment Act. Which year? Okay. Was it included in our like old constitution, like the earliest constitution when it was enacted? No. When was the constitution enacted?
1949.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Fine. So there are different things like fundamental duty we read, fundamental rights we will be reading. Preamble you have read it. We the people of India. That is preamble. DPSP is one thing which we I think you have no idea right now. What is directive principles of state policy? These are some policies which the state has to take it for the welfare of people, for the society. Like, for example, I'll give you which would be the right one. There are so many in that. Right to environment is also there. Right. Okay, that I can't give. Okay, maternity relief. For if there's a maternity benefit act, like if someone is pregnant and needs some rest, or for the pregnancy time, whatever the things are required for a woman, it is provided through directive principles. It is mentioned in that act. I think Article 42, if I'm not wrong. 42, I think. So it gives that rights to the women. As a society whole, it talks about, like for a whole society, it talks about. There's one act called animal husbandry. Or if you take example like how beef was banned. So it again comes through DPSP. Why beef was banned actually? Because it talks about animal husbandry there. And it is not enforceable until and unless government makes a law. It's just written there. It's not like fundamental rights. If it is violated, then you can go to High Court or Supreme Court. It is not enforceable. We'll read about it, we'll understand slowly. But DPSP, you need to understand that it is for the society as a whole. Okay. And fundamental right, it is for an individual. Fundamental duties is also for the citizen. So 4 things I'm talking about right now. Preamble we have read. Fundamental rights, something you have some information, fundamental rights. Fundamental duty you have read already. And this is DPSP. DPSP will read it. You'll have more clarity. Okay. The 4th function. Yeah.
The fourth function of the Constitution is to enable the government to fulfill the aspirations of a society and create conditions for a just society.
Yeah, just society. That is, everyone is equal. Justice prevails in a society. Okay. What are the enabling provisions of the Constitution? These are the examples.
Constitutions are not only rules and regulations controlling the powers of the government, they also give powers to the government for pursuing collective good for the society. Constitution of South Africa assigns many responsibilities to the government. It wants the government to make measures to promote conservation of nature, make efforts to protect persons or groups subjected to unfair discrimination, and provides that the government must progressively ensure adequate housing to all, healthcare, etc. In the case of Indonesia also, the government is enjoined to establish and conduct national education system. The Indonesian constitution ensures that the poor and destitute children will be looked after by the government.
Okay, so these are the example of world, like world government, how in different part of the world constitution is helping. So they have given example of South Africa and Indonesia, just to understand like how the constitution works in that country. Okay, you don't have to remember, just understand that in every part of the world, constitution or the government tries to help their own people through, it can be a written constitution or it can be unwritten constitution also. Some countries doesn't have constitution at all. We'll read about it. Okay, next.
Fundamental identity of the people. Finally, and perhaps even most importantly, the constitution expresses the fundamental identity of the people. This means the people as a collective entity come into being only through the basic constitution. It is by agreeing to basic set of norms about how one should be governed and who should be governed that one forms a collective identity.
Yeah.
One has many sets of identities that exist prior to constitution, but by agreeing to certain basic norms and principles, one constitutes one's basic political identity.
Yeah, stop here. So what is the basic political identity we have, everyone? We have a social identity. You might be Hindu, you might be anything. You might be Muslim, you might be from this community, you can be Jain, you can be Parsi, you can be anything. But political identity, we all are Indians. First thing. So that's called collective identity. And what gives us this identity? The Constitution, the preamble says that, right? That is the most important. After that, we have different thing. You might be from South India, you might be this, that, this. But one common thing we have is that this political identity, that we all are Indians. After that, the different things comes, like what you are, what you are not. Okay. Next, second.
Second, the constitutional norms are the overarching framework within which one pursues individual aspirations, goals, and freedoms. The Constitution sets authoritative constraints upon what one may or may not do. It defines the fundamental values that we may not trespass. So the Constitution also gives one a moral identity.
Okay, stop. So write this, whatever marked is there, right? Keep on writing it. It will help you to build your answers. So Constitution gives us political identity. Next point, the Constitution sets authoritative constraints upon what one may or may not do. So these are the, if there's a question on Constitution, we have to write all these things. And it gives a moral identity too. That some fundamental values cannot be trespassed. Certain things which are derogatory to a woman cannot be used, like words. That is a fundamental duty. So that gives us a moral identity too. Done? Yeah, read the third and finally.
Third and finally, it may be the case that many basic political and moral values are now shared across different constitutional traditions. If one looks at constitutions around the world, they differ in many respects. In the form of government, they enjoin in many procedural details, but they also share a good deal. Most modern constitutions create a form of government that is democratic in some respects. Most claim to protect certain basic rights, but constitutions are different in the way they embody conceptions of
National identity. Yeah.
most nations are an amalgamation of complex set of historical traditions. They weave together the diverse groups that reside within the nation in different ways. For example, German identity was constituted by being ethnically German. The constitution gave expression to this identity. The Indian constitution, on the other hand, does not make ethnic identity a criterion for citizenship.
Yeah, this is important. We don't have any criteria like this. We don't have any criteria as such. Like if you are this, you will be given the Indian citizen. We have certain Citizenship Act and articles through which we have become Indian citizen. It doesn't matter which caste, which religion, or what you are. But you are born here in India and certain dates are fixed, you are an Indian. And doesn't give ethnic identity. Nobody superior or inferior here in India. Okay? Yeah.
Different nations embody different conceptions of what the relationship between the different regions of a nation and the central government should be. This relationship constitutes the national identity of a country.
Okay. Next, you read.
The authority of the constitution. We have organized both the functions, the constitution perform. These functions explain why most societies have a constitution, but there are three
Questions we can ask about our constitution.
What is a constitution? How effective is a constitution? Is a constitution used? In most countries, constitution is a compact document that contains a number of articles about the state, specifying what the state is to be constituted and what norms it should follow. When we ask for the constitution of the country, we are usually referring to this document, but some countries, the United Kingdom, for instance, do not have one single document that can be from
See, I've given you an example. They don't have a single document which can be called a constitution. They don't have a written form. So if it is asked who doesn't have a written form, which country doesn't have a written form? UK. They don't have a written form. They don't have a constitution itself. But they are governing. They are a democratic country. So democracy can have a constitution and it cannot have a constitution also. Doesn't mean a democracy should have a constitution. Constitution, what is constitution? Set of rules, basic set of rules which everybody has agreed upon. And how does they get their power? How does the constitution get the power from? No, from the people itself. We have agreed. Okay. Parliament has been made by the constitution. Next.
Rather, they have a series of documents and decisions that take a collectivity or effort to write the constitution. So we can say that constitution is a document or set of documents that seeks to perform the functions that they mention.
Okay.
But many constitutions around the world exist only by their form. There are mere words existing on subject. The crucial question is how effectively is a constitution? What makes it effective? What ensures that it has a real impact on the lives of people? Making constitution effective depends upon people.
Okay, stop here. So yesterday we were reading about AMR. I said there are many laws, but where do we lack? Implementation. That is the biggest problem what we are facing right now. We have many things. Our constitution is the biggest constitution in the world, like the largest one which is ever written. But what is the problem? This is what it is talking about. Merely having a set of document doesn't help us. It needs enforcement. It needs implementation. It needs accountability and the transparency also. Like, is it transparent? If you see that bribery, if somebody can walk away by just paying 500 rupees, is it allowed? That money should be given. If you have hit this signal jump case, there's a price which you have to pay. 10,000, whatever, like if 2,000 they have charged now, right now, or drink and drive, take it, 10,000. It is why the government has made it so high. Because India is one among the, country, there's a declaration called Brasilia Declaration. According to that, India, the hit and run cases, maximum people die because of road accident in India rather than through other diseases. Compared to other world, it is very, much more. So this is why this hefty fines the government has been planning to put on people. If 10,000, if you are drunk and the cop catches you, if you pay him 500 rupees or take it 2,000, he will leave you. But what did you do actually? You just gave him that 2,000 black money, which is unaccounted right now, and it was supposed to go in the government's kitty, which would have gone again back to the people through welfare schemes, but now it is in his pocket, right? So we initiated it. So there's a lack of enforcement from our side also, that we don't want to pay that much amount. So this implementation problem comes every time. So we need a robust implementation policy or a body, whatever you call it. So we have cameras everywhere right now, right? And even we have phones. If we see anything, we can record it. So that has actually made us a vigilante, vigilant policism, it's called. Next.
One of the issues is refers to hold a constitution community. Who drafted the constitution or authority did they write?
Okay, I'll read it. Okay, I'll read it. In many countries, constitutions remain defunct because they are crafted by military leaders or leaders who are not popular and do not have the ability to carry the people with them. So can you give me any example of military leadership around us? Pakistan and Myanmar, junta government. Even in Sri Lanka, they don't have a leader who has got popular support. Okay, so we are surrounded by them actually. Only Bangladesh is working well, I think. Nepal also there is a turmoil. Bhutan, okay, it's run by a monarch. It's king who runs it. So Afghanistan is in problem. So you see, we are surrounded by such countries right now, and we are the big brothers there. So we need to take care of everyone, and ourselves, our own problem, and in our vicinity, in our surrounding, we need to have that solve those issues also. Even the Maldives issues we are having now, who are not popular and do not have the ability to carry the people with them. The most successful constitutions like India, South Africa, and United States are constitutions which were created in the aftermath popular national movement. So here we could see there was some national movement in all the countries. Although India's constitution was formally created by Constituent Assembly between December 1946 and November 1949, it drew upon a long history of nationalist movements that had a remarkable ability to take along different sections of Indian society together. The constitution drew enormous legitimacy from the fact that it was drawn up by the people who enjoyed immense public credibility. Like you can talk about who are the leaders: Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel. So these were the leaders who had public support. Everybody liked them. So this is why Ambedkar. So these were the leaders. They had their own public supports, who had the capacity to negotiate and command the respect of a wide cross section of society, and who were able to convince the people that the constitution was not an instrument for the aggrandizement of their personal power. The final document reflected the broad national consensus at that time. Some countries have subjected their constitution to full-fledged referendum. So where all the people vote on the desirability of the constitution. What does it mean? Like people themselves have voted for their constitution. The Indian constitution was never subjected to such a referendum, but nevertheless carried enormous public authority. That means the people could not vote for it. The representatives who were sitting in that constituent assembly, they have made laws and they have made that constitution for us. But nevertheless carried enormous public authority because it had the consensus and backing of leaders who were themselves popular. Although the constitution itself was not subjected to a referendum, the people adopted it as their own by abiding by its provisions. Therefore, the authority of the people who enacted the constitution helped determine in parts its prospects for success. Next is substantive provision of the constitution. Before this, let's read about the debate over constitution making in Nepal. It's a case study of Nepal. You'll read.
Making a constitution is not always an easy and smooth affair. Nepal is an example of the complicated nature of constitution making since 1948. Nepal has had 5 constitutions in 1948, 1951, 1959, 1962.
So they had 5 total. And how many we have? Till now one, and which is ever growing. Like it's a living document, they say, right? This is why.
But all these constitutions were granted by the King of Nepal. The 1990 constitution introduced a multi-party competition, though the king continued to hold final powers in many respects. For many years, Nepal was faced with militant political agitations for restructuring the government. The main issue was the role of the monarchy in the constitution of Nepal. Some groups in the Nepal wanted to abolish the institution of monarchy and establish republican form of government. Others believed that it may be useful to shift to limited monarchy with a reduced role for the king. The king himself was not ready to give up.
See, they are now bargaining. Let's go into republic or little bit power to monarchy. But king, why will he lose his power? Yeah, next.
He took over all powers in October 2002.
Okay.
Many political parties and organizations demanded the formation of a new constituent assembly. The Communist Party of Nepal was in the forefront of the struggle for a popularly elected constituent assembly. Finally, under pressure of popular agitation, the king had to install a government acceptable to the agitating parties. The government has stripped the king of almost all powers. In 2008, Nepal emerged as a democratic republic after abolishing the monarchy. Finally, Nepal adopted a new constitution in 2015.
So this is 48, 51, 59, 62, 90, and now 2015. So they have constitution remaking every now and then. So they are pro in that, I think, now. So next, the substantive provision of a constitution. It is the hallmark of successful constitution that gives everyone in society some reason to go along with its provision. A constitution that, for instance, allows permanent majorities to oppress minority groups within society would give minorities no reason to go along with the provision of the constitution. So here it's a very delicate, issue. Sometimes the majoritarian government, the mob vigilantism, what we have seen in India, like, or the cow protection, or you can call it Karni Sena, there are different names. It just doesn't happen in India. It happens in every part of the world. There is an issue called minority issue in every part of the world. But in India, we have a democratic government which actually supports the minority too in all the respect. Like there was a case called Triple Talaq. There were that issue was been raised because the rights of women in Muslim community was not fulfilled. Even it was a contract and they were like downtrodden in that ways. So through that we can say that even government has helped the minorities. Next, or a constitution that systematically privileges some members at the expense of others, or that systematically entrenches the power of small groups in a society, would cease to command elegance. If any group feels their identity is being stifled, they will have no reason to abide by the constitution. Exactly. And where do we see this kind of things? Like in India, there are many cases like Khalistan issue. They want their own state or country right now. Or if you go to Northeast, there are every section wants their own country now there. There were like Ulfa, there were like so many groups. But somehow what Indian government says is, if you attack the sovereignty of India, we'll go hard on you. We'll use all the power. But if you want to, talk it out, negotiate, just one thing they don't want, we can't give you your own country. You want some extra rights, you want something extra, we'll give you. But not these things. Okay? But it has to convince people, if any group feels their identity is being stifled, they will have no reason to abide by the constitution. No constitution by itself achieves perfect justice, but it has to convince people that it provides a framework for pursuing basic justice. We cannot have everyone happy in our room. Some will be feeling, they'll have some problem. Everyone will have problem. It's not like that. You cannot keep everyone happy. Simple. Do this thought experiment. Ask yourself this question. Next, balanced institutional design. Read this thing.
Constitutions are often subverted, not by the people, but by the small groups who wish to enhance their own
See,
power.
I have written about Khalistan issue, Ulfa, Jammu Kashmir separatist, because they want to increase their own power. Okay?
Well-crafted constitutions fragment power in society intelligently so that no single group can subvert the constitution. One way of such intelligent design of constitution is to ensure that no single institutions acquire monopoly of powers. This is often done by the fragmenting power across different institutions. The Indian Constitution, for example, horizontally fragments power across different institutions like the legislature, executive, and judiciary, and even independent statutory bodies like election commission. This ensures that even if one institution wants to subvert the constitution, others can check its transgressions. An intelligent system of checks and balances has facilitated the success of the Indian constitution.
Yeah, stop here. So, it is talking about that single organ should not become too powerful. If executive becomes too powerful, what does executive means? The MPs and MLAs whom we elect. If they become too powerful, what will happen to a country? They can pass any laws. If they can ban, if he's wearing a check shirt, they can ban him. Like, you can't wear a check shirt now. You'll be behind the bars. So, and no control. So, who gives that balance, check and balance? Judiciary, High Court, Supreme Courts. If somebody goes to the court, says that, sir, this is illegal, can you check the validity of this law? So he will keep the constitution as his framework or the guiding light. He will read the constitution properly. He's like, okay, the constitution says this is not right. So he can say, the judges themselves, the judiciary can decide that law is illegal, unlawful. Let's, this is not law anymore. So we'll read about the different times when judiciary has helped, and even different times when judiciary has overreached its power. Sometimes judiciary takes some cases with themselves, which becomes a problematic issue. Like the Sabrimala case, they have taken, it become a very big problem that they allowed even the women to go. But that law has to be made by the state government first. And even the case of Section 377 or the adultery cases. So these are the things which judicially themselves took it. Like, they were futuristic. It's not like what they're trying to say is wrong. But the society as of now, it's not ready for that. We need to understand what kind of society we're living in. If you allow adultery in a country like India, it will be a problem. And this is what former Bipin Yadav, General Bipin Yadav has said. It is not allowed in Indian Army. So this kind of things are futuristic, but the society is not ready for that change. So sometimes judiciary overreach themselves. It is called judicial overreach. And judicial activism, two words will be reading. Write it down. Judicial activism and judicial overreach. An intelligent system of check and balance has facilitated the success of Indian Constitution. This is why our Constitution is so successful. If somebody tries to subvert it, there's some other organ which will come and help it. Another important aspects of intelligent institutional design is that a constitution must strike the right balance between certain values, norms, and procedures as authoritative, and at the same time allow enough flexibility in its operation to adapt to changing needs of the circumstances. Write this thing. What is a good government? Why it is why it is called living document or constitution? Because it strikes the right balance between certain values, norms, and procedures as authoritative. Something should be authoritative. Nobody can kill anyone, but it should have some flexibility also. If Section 377 is allowed in India, it is only because futuristic plans were allowed. Like, okay, even homosexuals have their own rights. They can, but now the Supreme Court has said they cannot marry each other, but still it is decriminalized. They can openly say they are into a relationship. Written? Next is, too rigid a constitution is likely to break under the weight of change. It will break down, like Nepal. A constitution that is, on the other hand, too flexible will give no security, because it's keep on changing every time. It's okay. And predictability or entry to the people. Successful constitution strikes the right balance between preserving core values and adapting them to new circumstances. There are core values what Indian constitution has. It cannot change. Those are called fundamental, like basic structural doctrine will read. Those are fundamental to our constitution that cannot be changed. Nobody can change it. But there are certain changes which the society themselves want it. So for that, the constitution is ready to change. We can amend the constitution. Okay? You will notice the wisdoms of makers of the constitution in the chapter on the constitution as a living document, chapter 9. The Indian constitution is described as a living document. If this questions have like why the Indian constitution is called a living document have been asked multiple times in mains. It's an easy one now. You can understand why. Like, but we just need to give some examples, extra examples with laws and all. But you understand why it is a living document, because it is flexible. It is rigid also. It is flexible also. Not that flexible that it is very flexible, but it is not that rigid also. This is why it is called living document, because with the circumstances, the changing circumstances, it can change. This is why it is called a living document. By striking a balance between the possibility to change the provisions and the limits on such changes, the Constitution has ensured that it will survive as a document respected by people. This arrangement also ensures that no section or group can on its own subvert the Constitution. Nobody can do it except like only the legislature has the power to change the Constitution. Nobody can say that, okay, we don't like this law, let's tuck it off. We can't do that. Some certain laws will be changed by the people, like by the legislature himself. Like now they have brought in that law, that hit and run. The truck association didn't say that we will not follow this. They went on a strike so that it can be taken off legally. Because it has a legal enforcement. If the law has been made, the police will enforce it. Immaterial, it is right or wrong, but it will be enforced because it is his duty to enforce it. Okay? There is a therefore, in determining whether a constitution has authority, you can ask yourself 3 questions. Were the people who enacted the constitution credible? They are credible because we chose them. This question will be answered in the remaining part of this chapter. Second, did the constitution ensure that power was intelligently organized so that it was not easy for any group to subvert the constitution? And most importantly, does the constitution gives everyone some reason to go along with it? Most of this book is about this book. of this book is about this question. Also, is the constitution the locus of people's hope and aspiration? See, everything is all about citizen only, end of the day. It's we the people of India. So a good constitution or bad constitution. Ambedkar has said something about it. So we'll talk about that in the coming chapters. Also, in the constitution, the locus of the people's hope and aspiration. The ability of the constitution to command voluntary allegiance of the people depends on certain extent upon whether the constitution is just. What are the principles of justice underlying the Indian constitution? The last chapter of this book will answer this question. Okay, we'll stop here. Okay, so different types of organs also we'll read. 10 chapters we have to deal with. We'll go slowly because this is your basic understanding. We cannot jump into the advanced book if you don't understand this. So are you able to understand? We have not dealt with many things. We have only read 14 pages. But it has, I think it should have given you enough idea that what we are reading about. It's about constitution. Fundamental rights, we are talking about. Fundamental duties we have read, preamble we have read. Okay. And whatever it is important for from the perspective of answer writing or your prelims, I'm saying that too also. That this is important with perspective of with respect to your exam. But with respect to your understanding, we are discussing more here. So both the things we are clearing. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Okay. Till now you understood everything? Little bit? Try to ask questions if you don't understand. Okay, we'll again get back after a lunch break. Okay.